Welcome to Live, Behind the Veil, an atmosphere where men and women of God speak His word to this age and bring His kingdom to this earth. Do you have ears to hear and eyes to see what God is doing in this hour? Let us join our host and the family's conversation as the Holy Spirit is unfolding the Word behind the veil.
Welcome to Live Behind the Veil. I'm Ron, your host, and today we're talking about the reality of God's love. The family shares how God created us for a love relationship with Him, not just a religious idea or mental concept, but a living experience of receiving His love and loving Him in return. In this conversation, we look at how the love of God is imparted to us, how the cross proves and deepens that love, and how difficult experiences can reveal something of God in us that we could never produce on our own. We also touch on God's covenant love for the Jewish people and what we can learn by watching His relationship with them. Join us as we open our hearts to the Father's love and the relationship He is bringing us into through Christ.
God created us, human race, so we would love Him. He's a very jealous God. He specifically wanted to be loved. He feels that if I love you, you should love me back. If I'm your unique God and I refuse to be one of many gods, that's a very intense love relationship. And that's what He wants. And that's what He expects from us. Just imagine what we can get back. We can get a love that is just for us. When I hear the great commandment that you shall love the Lord your God with all of these things, these attributes, take into account He's offering the same back to you.
God's looking for the reality of love, not just a love that we talk about. And the only way we get that is to receive His love. He enables us to love with His love. I don't think there's any substitute for that, because a lot of people say, I love the Lord. In reality, they're just words. There's not a depth of love in their own hearts to really do that. And just saying it isn't enough.
You're talking about a reality and an experience versus a mental concept or something you read in the Bible. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. To receive God's love is an experience. And I don't think, in all reality, you cannot love God the way He wants you to love Him without those impartations or those experiences from Him.
What we see is the example that His Son set for us. From the very beginning, He said, come follow me. He got towards the end of His ministry, He says, take up your cross and follow me. If you take up your cross and you die and He resurrects you, you have proven to Him that you love Him. You laid down your life. The same love that the Father put in His Son has now been imparted to me.
When you serve the Lord in any capacity, and yet you hold in and love them with all your heart and speak to them, that's the love that we're talking about. But it takes the love of God. It's an experience that you have with God to carry the cross that He lays upon your life to bring you forth. Whether it's somebody that's dying you're taking care of, or somebody with a long-term illness that you're taking care of, and you minister the love to them, that love comes back to you.
When Fred was in the hospital, and it was near where he was dying, and I got off the elevator, and there was a woman sitting over on the chair, and her head was down, and I went over and I sat down and I said, hi, can I help you? And she just said, my son he's down there in the room. She said, we brought him to the hospital again. She said, he's totally paralyzed. All that there is a face. And all of a sudden, somebody gets off the elevator and it's her husband. And he comes over. And so we're all standing there. And he said, I had 3 sons. They were all athletes. And he said, this one was surfing and he had this accident and was paralyzed totally. He said, I went to God and I screamed and I said, what have you done to my son? What? And God said, you weren't raising them to serve me. So I'm taking this one for myself. But this young man, every day he'd tie the young man to a straight chair. And as he worked at home, the young man was there and they'd talk and read the word together. This young man became something else. He became so Christ. When you walked into the room with him, it was just like you were in the room with the Lord. And everybody that came in, I'd take them to his room and they go, oh my God, what God made him was far more than he could have ever been.
It's miracle level. Some of the things that we go through, all you can do is just shake your head and go, this love is so overwhelming. It encompasses everything about our lives. He's creating something in us we could never do by ourselves. His Spirit ministers life. I was thinking about Abraham just a few minutes ago when God said, Abraham, I want you to take your son, which I've given you at the age of 100, when it was a miracle just to have him born. I want you to take him, offer him up to me. Now you talk about love. Abraham loved God so much. He went to do exactly that. And that was the heart God loved, because when God saw that he was going to do that, he said, don't do it. Don't do it. Oftentimes when we think we're in the hardest place we've ever been in our lives, it's because God allowed us to get there. Because he's teaching us something. He's showing us something. You look at your life and you say, if I had not gone through that, I wouldn't know the love of God.
Interesting talking about Abraham, that there were no scriptures, there was no Bible. This was a relationship. To me, that's the perfect atmosphere. It was a relationship that they had, a relationship of love. I feel that's where the Lord's trying to bring humanity, is get them out of all these trappings and get them into a relationship of love with him.
God will go to any means he has to get us to understand how much he loves us. God is not beyond something like that. He loves us so much. On this podcast that we're talking about tonight, and we're bringing up the many creations of God in the earth, and the Jewish people are one of God's greatest creations. We see that throughout the Old Testament into the New Testament, that God created a people to love him. And in return, he loves them. It's amazing as we see what's going on right now in the news and wonder, what is God doing? Whether you're a Christian or non-Christian, we recognize that God is doing something very special with these Jewish people. It would behoove us to watch and to listen and maybe be taught something that would be valuable for us in our relationship to the Lord. There's a lot being poured out in what God is doing through the Jewish people. Look at their success as a nation in agriculture, in all different kinds of things. God is blessing them. Why? Because they love him. It's interesting to see what they're doing, especially if we're fortunate enough to travel to Israel and to witness it. It's different to hear a news broadcast and tell about what's happening as it is to stand there on a Sabbath evening in a synagogue and watch what they're doing. We open our hearts to them. They're his people. We're his people. He's the Father of all creation.
Thank you for joining us today on Live Behind the Veil. The love God is looking for is not just something we talk about. It is something he works in us as we receive his love, walk with him, and lay down our lives before him. As the family shared, God is bringing us into a relationship of love with himself, a love that goes beyond words, beyond religion, and beyond human effort. May we each open our hearts to receive his love more deeply and allow that love to be revealed through our lives.
Experiencing the impartation of God's Word through his family is life. Has this time in his presence blessed you? Then please subscribe to our podcast at livebehindtheveil.com. If you would like to contact the family with questions or topics that you would like discussed, you can email them to livingepistles@livebehindtheveil.com. Stay connected, tuned in, and grow with the family as the Lord unveils his word to us live behind the veil.